What's up guys, welcome back to Fish at the Moment. Today I want to talk to you about my new favorite bass fishing reel on the market. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so here it is, the Abu Garcia Black Max reel, and as you probably saw from the thumbnail, this is a $39 reel. It has 5 ball bearings, it's a 6 4-to-1 gear ratio, and it is a beast. I absolutely love this reel, and I've been using it a ton in all of my videos. It's been my go-to football jig reel, and as you can see out here on the deck of the boat, I have all the Black Maxes I actually own, which I have 6 of them. I have 4 of the 6 3-to-1s, and I have 2 of the 5 4-to-1 winch, the Black Max winch. That actually comes in a little bit higher price, $49. I know, breaking the bank with $49 bass fishing reel. And I throw that on my deep diving crankbaits, pretty much all of my big plugs here. I've also been throwing it with a big Colorado bladed spinnerbait with really good results. Okay, so I know some of you are probably like, okay, Johnny, why are you fishing with a $39 bait casting reel? I'm sure you can afford to go with a $100 reel, a $200 reel even. Why are you going with such a cheap reel? It's just going to be poor quality. It's going to hurt your ability to cast all kinds of stuff. And what I found is it's actually the furthest thing from the truth. And I actually picked up this reel about 2 years ago because I wanted to make a video comparing a $39 reel to a $200 and $300 reel that I'm used to using. And to my surprise, I actually liked the $39 reel better than my 8 to 10-year-old Quantums, which were 10 years old. And I love those reels. They're really, really good. I've just found that these Black Maxes over the years have actually improved a lot, and compared to the equipment from 10 years ago, those $300, these reels are pretty comparable. So here's my go-to reel that I've used for years, and I still keep it in play because I really love it. And it's the Quantum TE100. 11 ball bearings, $300, has a nice drag system on the side. It has really smooth casting. I can cast these things a mile, pretty light, especially back in the day. And so these reels are amazing. They work super well. And you can see over here, I actually have several of them still on my fishing poles. I use them for a lot of my pinpoint casting, my crankbaits, flipping, stuff like that. But I found that these Abu Garcia Black Maxes work pretty well up in those same situations, flipping, pitching, accurate casts. And right now I'm running them mainly on my offshore rods. So I have like a big swim bait here, things I need to make long casts with, because these reels definitely excel in making long casts. And I've actually outcast a lot of guys during on the water fishing lessons with this reel. And I would say more than a couple guys, I would say most guys I can outcast with this Black Max. Even with like a little shaky head like this, it's a little 3/8 ounce with a black worm, I can fire this thing 40 yards on this Black Max, no problem. And so to get the best performance out of this Black Max reel out of the package, I found that I will set the braking system on the left side of the reel to about the middle mark, almost in the middle, just like 2 dots to the right of middle. And then I'll take that tension knob and I'll put it almost all the way to being tight, and I'll back it off just a little bit. And that allows me to cast this thing really, really well. And the last thing I do is actually spool up my reel to full capacity. This reel definitely works better with full capacity spooled up. And so I'll actually fill half the reel with backing, like 20, 25 pound Berkeley big game, then put my fluorocarbon on top of that. That helps me not waste a bunch of line, and it helps me keep a full spool. That gives me a lot better casting distance and just better performance out of this reel in general. So the two major concerns with a $39 bait casting reel, in my mind at least, would be one, is it going to withstand the test of time? After fishing with it for 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, does it still cast as smooth? Is it going to break down? Is it going to stop working? And I've had one of these Black Maxes now for 2 years, and I haven't seen any drop in performance out of the package. And so it's been a really good, consistent reel for me over the years. I now have 4 of them, have not had any of them go bad, no problems with them at all. And I think it's just the fact that they're really simple. They're made of plastic, and so they're pretty light, and there's really just not that many parts that can go wrong. There's just 5 ball bearings, and so I really, really like them. And then the next thing might be the castability. How well does it cast compared to a $300 reel, maybe a Shimano DC, something that has the electronic brakes in it? And so let's talk about that right now. So in terms of castability, this reel really excels at long distance casting. So if I'm just working out offshore and want to make big long casts, I can whip this reel, cast that thing really, really far, get that out there as far as I would ever need it, and I can cast it just as far as any other bait casting reel on the market. Now, one call out I'll make is that this reel does require a good amount of thumb control. And so for the novice fisherman, you might not be able to cast this reel as far as easily as you would with like a Shimano DC with the braking controls. But for me, I can cast that thing out there and cast it no problem. You can even let your finger off the spool like I just did there. And really all you have to do is put your thumb on right when you cast that bait to kill the initial spool turn. The initial spool turn on this thing is pretty harsh, and so it'll kind of almost give you a little bit of a backlash when you first fire that bait out there. But then if you keep your thumb on there, not too tight to slow the momentum down, but just enough to control that backlash, about a third of the way through the cast, you can let off with your thumb, and you're not going to have a backlash problem. And so it takes a little bit of time to get used to, and if you're not as experienced with bait casters, it may be a little bit tough to cast the distance that I'm casting, but it's a great reel. As you can see, it reels in the bait really smooth, no hiccups in the reeling, and again, I can fire this thing out there really far. I can put a ton of effort into my cast. I don't have to worry about it backlashing too bad, and again, I can let my finger off the spool about halfway through, no problem with the way I have this thing set up. And that's a long cast out there, further than you probably would even need to cast. So it's definitely got the ability to cast the bait a long ways. Another thing you might be wondering about with a $39 bait caster is how well does it cast around shallow cover? Can you make pinpoint accurate casts, pitches, and skips with a $39 reel? And what I've found is that I can cast just as well with this reel as I can with any of the $300 reels that I have. And so I can make really nice roll casts with it. I can even make some really subtle quiet roll cast, just barely set that bait in there. I have no problem coming in here and pitching this bait. If I need to pitch it up in the cover, no problem, can sit in there nice and quietly. And the one thing I really like about it is I can actually skip that bait like a dream, just straight across the surface of the water, no problem. And so you can skip with this bait caster, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. And it's just a great reel to use if you're trying to get into bass fishing, or if you want to just save some money. And one thing I found is that I can get, one $39 reel here, or you might get, one $300 reel. And if you get that $300 reel, you could buy 10 of these things with the $300 you spend on that one reel. And as far as the performance gap between this reel and the $300 reel, I just don't see it. I don't see that much of an improvement between the high dollar reels and this reel. Even going up to a $100 reel, there's not gonna be that much of a gap. Yeah, it might be a little bit smoother. You might be able to cast it just a couple yards further, or maybe you can have it crank back a little bit better. But I mean, really, it's just going to be tiny, tiny differences, and you're not going to really be able to feel it. And one thing I would say about this reel is if it was super heavy, that might be a reason to go to one of the higher dollar reels. But I mean, it's really light and it holds up. And so if I was in the market for a bait caster, which I am, I'm buying these things all the time, I would go with a $39 reel. Even if I had the option of going out and let's say buying a $300 reel for $100, and you could say, hey, you could have as many of these $300 reels for $100 as you want, I'd say, no way. I'm just gonna buy 3 $39 Black Maxes because I can get more reels, and I can then also save some of that money and get some nice rods. And so you can see on the front deck of my boat, I got a ton of rods down. In all my videos, I use a lot of fishing poles. And so in my mind, I would much rather have 10 $39 reels and pair it up with 10 rods, there may be 70, 80 bucks, instead of having one $300 reel and maybe one $300 or $400 rod. And that way you have more flexibility when you're on the water. You can have some different crankbaits, a couple different jigs, maybe a shaky head, a football jig, all kinds of stuff. And instead of spending time tying on the bottom of the boat, you can just go out, have everything you need, and also have kind of consistency between all your reels because they're all the same. And so there's so many benefits. I don't know why more guys aren't talking about these $39 reels. To me, they're awesome. I keep buying more and more as my old reels kind of die out on me, which they're dying, it seems like, every other trip at this point. And so I love these $39 Abu Garcia Black Maxes, and I'll leave a link down in the description. You can also pick them up at Walmart and pretty much anywhere. And if you're in the market for fishing reels, whether you're starting out or you're a serious tournament angler, go check one of these reels out. At least pick up one. I mean, it's worth 39 bucks to give it a shot. I definitely recommend it. It'll definitely do the job and save you a lot of money. So hope you enjoyed this video. It was a little bit different from what I normally do, but I've been loving these reels so much that I wanted to to talk about them and share what I've learned with you guys. So again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next video.